Hi, Shayna. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming in today because I know that we're just starting out getting to know each other, and I don't expect you to divulge every personal detail about yourself right away. You certainly can if you want to, but right now, during the intake process, this is more so a way for me to get to know you better, for you to have a better understanding of how I operate as a clinician. And I just want you to know I do take my role as a therapist very seriously. I care very much about the people that I support and I serve. And just to cover some basic formalities, as you already may know, I am a mandated reporter. So even though what happens here stays right here, if for any reason that you might need to share something with me that does place yourself at risk or anybody else, I would, of course, have to do my due diligence in support of you. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear with that because I'm hoping that we'll be able to build a good rapport and have trust. Do you have any questions whatsoever?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. And also keep in mind, you're here totally and completely voluntarily. So if you find that you, I'm maybe not a good fit for you, I will completely understand and respect that. If you do want to see one of my colleagues instead, I do encourage you to give me a chance if we, after a few sessions to make a decision if you would like to continue to have therapy with me. But with all of that being said, what brings you in today?
Um, so the real reason I came in today is I'm really struggling with my son. He's 16 and I'm I we were having a great we have had always had a great relationship. It's always been really, really good. And I know he's a teenager, and going into teenage years can be difficult and trying for teenagers and parents. Um, I'm just finding that with all of that, the relationship that the two of us have is really starting to become strained and distant. And it's really starting to affect me in my personal way, because I think some of the trauma from my past and things that have happened in general. And I want to get a handle on it before it becomes something that I take out necessarily on my son, or becomes so big that I can't handle it myself.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're concerned that your past trauma is going to have an effect on your current relationship with your son as he has entered his teen years.
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't have to share any details right now if you don't feel comfortable, but would you be able to tell me what the connection is or what it is about your past that has that hold on you when it does come to your relationship with your son?
Sure. I think after thinking about it, for a while now, I've talked to my husband about it. I think it comes down to, without, getting too deep into any of the trauma or whatnot, it comes down to the invalidation.
Okay.
So like when my son says things like, I don't have to do that, or I run a pretty tight ship here because my husband's in the military, so I'm often by myself raising our kids. And that piece of like, oh, I don't have to do that, or you can't tell me what to do, or me constantly having to explain myself. It, as he grew, it became more and more triggering to me, that idea of, why do I always have to explain myself? And that I'm in I'm intelligent. I know what I'm saying. I do things for a reason. Like, but it's become very like demeaning, even when he's not demeaning about it. Like, I take it very personally, and it becomes really overwhelming emotionally.
I can understand that. And definitely, it can be overwhelming, especially as a parent. When your children are much younger, you pretty much rule everything that they say, they do, what they eat. And as they start to get older and become their own people and they have a bit more resistance,
Mhm.
that can be somewhat devastating. It can be traumatic in itself. And let me ask you, what would you want to change about your own behavior when it comes to your son?
That's a great question. I've thought about it quite a bit, because I've tried, honestly. Because I didn't want to be like my parents were. My parents were very much, it's like our way or the highway type deal. I always wanted to give my kids autonomy and voice, in who they were. So I've tried the loving, caring, and listening. I've tried laying down the law. I've tried asking him, like his feelings, talking through it. So I'm kind of to a point where I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what I want to see out of it. I don't know the best way to come at it, because I feel like no matter which way I come at it, he is just pulling farther away. I keep doing things, I alter my behavior to match kind of what he's saying, and then that doesn't seem to be enough either. So it becomes then even more triggering, like, why am I not enough? Like,
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure. So, and it creates this crazy spiral for me of past trauma with men that is like that constant, why am I not enough? Why am I not enough? And it's a different enough, but it feels very much the same.
What do you want to see happen as far as your relationship with your son? What, if you could paint for me the picture of what would be your preferred outcome?
I would I would really like for him to acknowledge that, I'm not here to hinder him, that I'm really here to help. I know he's a teenager. I know that I don't need him to be perfect, and I don't need him to say, I'm never going to have a drink, or I'm never going to do this, or I'm never going to do that. Like, he's a teenage boy. Um, but the understanding that I never had of, like, my mom is there and I can utilize her and lean into her, when times are really tough, because I never had that. So when times got tough, I had to resort to things that I'm not proud of. And
Hmm.
I had no one. So ideally, what it would look like is that he can trust me enough to know that, if he needs advice, I'll give advice. But if he needs me to just listen, I can listen. But that he feels comfortable in doing that. And right now, I don't know he does.
It sounds to me like you are striving to be the type of parent that you needed when you were his age.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And while you might have responded a certain way had you had that type of parenting in your life, um, it also could be that because he is different, that he's responding differently than you may have if you could go back in time to when you were a
Mhm.
teenager. And also, not just the generational differences, but with consideration of differences in genders and social norms. Um, do you find that there's commonalities when it comes to your son's personality and yours?
Um, yes, I think we're both extremely sensitive people. We have that very much alike. He's very much like my husband in every other aspect, but he is a very sensitive person. So I know that when I come at him with any type of constructive criticism or, need for change, he takes that very personally,
Hmm.
and that it becomes very overwhelming for him too. So you have two like super sensitive people trying to get their point across, and he has my husband's stubbornness. So it just becomes very like it, stonewalling at the end. Like,
Hmm.
I'm done with this conversation.
And that can be very frustrating as well,
Hmm.
especially the more effort that you're putting in, it seems that it's drawing him further away.
Yeah.
Um, well, let me ask you, with the path that your son is currently following and the path of most resistance, if you will, um, what would be the absolute worst possible outcome?
That his relationship is similar to that of my brother and my mother, like that he just loathes me, and there's no real reason why. There's just no emotional connection. And my mom, I can see her now as he's an adult, just struggling with that piece of like, I did everything I possibly could as a mother. And I don't want to be her age and looking back and saying the same thing, knowing that she did. I mean, every parent messes up occasionally, but I don't want my son to feel that way about our relationship. That would be the worst possible case scenario for me.